I think what's more important is deciding who you want to be and creating yourself as a new possibility, and then backing up that possibility with as much evidence, action, speech, everything you can, and fully align yourself to that possibility. Before you know it, your external world will reflect that possibility. So you have to become somebody right now as a choice that is high agency, where you take control of where you want to direct your life. You're not some bag in the wind where life's just dragging you where it wants, and you say, this is what I want out of life. Okay, what do I need to learn to become this person to have this, and then go do it.
What's something you had to unlearn about love or masculinity?
The idea that vulnerability and sensitivity make you less masculine. You create it whether you know it or not, because you're always creating yourself, and your vibe attracts your tribe. Like, you're always going to be attracting people that are in resonance with your frequency or would want to be around. There's an interesting idea that you can't read the label from inside the bottle, right? If I'm inside the bottle, I can't see the label outside of it. So you can't always see your own stuff. Sometimes you need someone else to point it out for you. And you have to be in a position where you're open to receiving that feedback, and you're not so closed off defending your identity, right? And so sometimes you have to hit enough pain to where you finally surrender and you're willing to open up and let someone else contribute to you.
I went through a 3-year journey, honestly, in order to first find out what I needed, because I thought, that I wanted certain things, but I really needed other things in order to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I thought I needed a Colombian, but then I opened up the aperture to all Latinas. So I've expanded
Internationally.
Yeah. I've expanded.
Today on Chabán Podcast. Chabán Podcast is presented by Yes You Can, your healthy lifestyle with a Latin flavor. Yes You Can Medical, the telemedicine platform that brings you closer to your best version. Visit now yesyoucanmedical.com.
Hola, hola. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Chabán Podcast. So whether this is your first time listening or you've been with me from the start, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this amazing community that continues to grow. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button right there so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to take care of your health from the inside out, make sure to check out yesyoucan.com for powerful nutrition tools and yesyoucanmedical.com. We offer telehealth services, including GLP-1 medications, hair growth, B12, NAD solutions, and more. Personalized care right from home. So now let's get in it. Let me tell you something personal, something that, I've been working on therapy a lot. I wasn't always the confident guy you see today, right? This is built. There was a time when I felt like the world had already chosen its winners and I wasn't one of them, right? I was 314 pounds. I was overweight. I was super insecure. I was always desperate to fit in, super conscious about people around me. And I remember walking into rooms, working into my classroom and feeling invisible. I wasn't the cool one. I wasn't the handsome one. But maybe, and just maybe, that was my superpower, right? When you are the underdog, you learn to go the extra mile. You learn how to show up even when no one's watching, and you don't wait for permission. You build your own rules, you build your own table, you build your own community. And that brings me to today's guest. A lot of people see him now super fit, running a powerful company, interviewing world-class business leaders. But what many people don't realize is he also used to be the kid who felt like he didn't belong. He was also bullied, overlooked, misunderstood. So welcome to Chabán Podcast, my friend, Chris Vasquez. Bienvenidos.
So happy to be here, my man. Thanks for having me.
Whoa. I'm super excited to have this conversation. I love your podcast. I have watched many of those episodes and you're so great. You listen to your guests and you always have very powerful conversations. So I wanted to know you. Now you're on the other side.
Yes.
So you told me before that you were not the popular guy. So who were you as a kid?
I think that's kind of how every great story starts. I think the most successful people, the most fit people, the most anything people typically were the counterbalance to that when they started out. And because they were in such a desperate situation, they had to learn the tools and go the extra mile, like you mentioned, to build themselves into the person they want to be. So I was a kid, I was more of a sensitive, creative kid that was as a kid, I was just very passionate, sensitive, and more creative. And like, I wanted to be the jock. I wanted to be with all the cool kids, when I was younger. And I always say your voids create your values. Right. So those voids when I was younger, moving around a lot with my family from my mom's job, not fitting in, not feeling like I was part of the cool kids, getting bullied a lot when I was younger. I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like the outsider, the lone wolf. And so I quickly created this story in my mind that no one was coming to save me and it was up to me. Right. So it was all on me. And so that made me extremely self-reliant, but obviously that creates complications later on. But I was just a genuinely happy-go-lucky kid who just wanted love and had a hard time getting that. And therefore, I, like many others, built a character in order to get love and validation from the world. And that's the process of the story.
So going back, what childhood moment still shapes who you are today?
A big one that I uncovered when I was in my late 20s was in a baseball game when I was about 11 or 12. And it was the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs to go to the Little League World Series. And I was on second base. My teammate hit a pop fly into left field. I'm rounding third. My coach is waving me in, go slide, score the winning run or the tying run. And I slid. I did this shitty slide and I got tagged out and we lost the game. And I looked over at the bench and I saw everyone throw their mitts down at the ground. They wouldn't talk to me. They blamed everything on me and said, Vasquez, he lost us the game. That moment was pretty defining for me because I quit every team sport. I quit anything where I could be in a leadership position because I didn't want to let people down. And the story I told myself at that moment was, if you put me in charge, I'm going to let everyone down. And also, secondly, screw everybody. I don't need anyone. Right. So then I went all into individual sports, individual accomplishments, where I then wanted to overcompensate to prove I was worthy of others. But that was a pretty defining moment. I think there was a lot of other small ones that were in the same kind of vein, but I just didn't feel like I belonged, didn't feel good enough. And I didn't have that confidence in myself. And I was so afraid to let people down that I shrunk myself. And I had these big ambitions and big aspirations since I can remember. But I just didn't have the esteem, the confidence to think that I could be the one to do it back then.
How did you build it?
I think that's a big process. I think when people are looking at personal growth, they try to find the silver bullet. Like, what's the one seminar I got to go to fix my entire life?
The secret.
It's like, if you go to the gym one time, even if you're the best workout, are you going to see any change? And so it's usually a progression of a lot of different things. But I think as I got a bit older and more conscious, at one point, this is what happened. I left my job at 24 years old. I read a quote on Instagram and it said, if your life was a book, would you want to read it? And I reflected on that quote. And I was working a corporate job, kind of doing the whole matrix prescription from society and my parents. And I was like, I don't want to read my book. So I quit, traveled the country. 25 countries later, I decided to come home. I just wrote this epic novel that I was so proud to have written. I finally took control, picked up the pen and wrote my own story. But when I came back, I was expecting my life to be completely different. And then I realized it was the exact same. I had all the same problems. I had really cool Instagram pictures, but I had all the same problems. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm the common denominator here. And so that's when I started to go do personal development seminars, look at therapy, get into personal growth and reading, and join mastermind groups and just like really commit my entire being to figure out how to evolve and not be controlled by these limiting beliefs and patterns that kept me stuck. And so it was this curiosity that turned into a full-on commitment, because I was like, look, I've hit some financial goals. I've traveled the world, done all this cool stuff. And then after a while, you check all these boxes and you realize that the emotional payoff never came. And so that, I think, is what finally forced me and many others like that to look in. You realize that nothing out here really matters. It's always an internal game and the outside world is just a mere projection of your internal reality. And so when I started to pick up on that, that's when I fully dove in.
Were you still feeling the guilt from your childhood?
I don't know if it was guilt. I think I was angry. I think once I broke out of the matrix, so to speak, and understood that I was being imprisoned by false stories that I was living in as my subjective truth based on past events and stories that I created when I was a young kid. When I realized that I had been living so far below my potential and robbing myself of my own happiness for so long, I was angry. It's like I needed to make up for lost time. I was like, man, I spent so much of my life not believing in myself and putting everyone else up on a pedestal. And then when I realized that it was all made up and it was all make believe, I was like, I'm going to do something really special. And hopefully wake other people up and be an example. And that's what gave me the fuel to go so obsessively into it. I learned to hate those limitations in myself, and I hate seeing them in other people. And so that motivated me to really dive into a level of mastery where I'm like, I need to learn how to master this. How do I master my own mind? How do I self-regulate my thoughts, my emotions, my behaviors, so that I'm actually in control of my destiny instead of being controlled by these limiting stories that some 12-year-old inherited.
Wow. What was the first step you took in order to change those stories? Well, first of all, to be aware, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, you're literally led by those stories. But what was the first step that you started taking in order to start changing them?
I think there's an interesting idea that you can't read the label from inside the bottle, right? If I'm inside the bottle, I can't see the label outside of it. So you can't always see your own stuff. Sometimes you need someone else to point it out for you. And you have to be in a position where you're open to receiving that feedback and you're not so closed off defending your identity, right? And so sometimes you have to hit enough pain to where you finally surrender and you're willing to open up and let someone else contribute to you. So I had 5 different people tell me about this thing called the Landmark Forum. And at this point, I had done 0 personal development seminars or workshops, anything, but 5 different people. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I don't know what it is. And that was a seminar that helps you uncover your unconscious beliefs. It helps you uncover the stories that you've created from your past. And that was what opened up Pandora's box for me. Because then that was where I discovered that baseball story. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 26, 27, but I've been living as a 12-year-old for the last X amount of years.
Wow.
And that's what made me, okay, let's peel it back. But effectively, if someone wants to try this at home or work with somebody, I think the process is fairly simple. And there's a lot of ways to go about it. But I think one of the beneficial ways is like, look at the most emotionally charged moments of your life, right? And what is the thing that's holding you back? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel ashamed? Do you feel less than? Go back to those early memories of when's the first time you felt those feelings? And what are those big emotional events in your life that happened to you that were really defining? And try to go back and relive those and experience those in your mind and ask, what did you tell yourself in that moment? What was the story that you created? There's the event, and there's the interpretation of the event, and then you layered in the story. So if you can go back into that moment and see the story and the false interpretation you created from it, you can then bring that unconscious dark limiting belief into the light and examine it. And then when you can see that that belief is erroneous, it's false, now you have an opportunity to change it because now the logic doesn't coincide with your brain. And so when I saw in that story that I'd created a story that I could never be a leader, if you put me in charge of anything, I'd let people down. When I saw that in the light, I saw how ridiculous it was. I saw that was a story of a 12-year-old. And if that was where I got my truth from, I needed to really reconsider something. And then when you can identify what the limiting belief is and you can see the error in the thinking, you can create a new possibility, right? And at that moment in time, I said, I am a great leader. I'm a great leader. I build amazing things. I rally people towards my causes. I'm a great leader. And so I'm like, what would I have to do to prove to myself that this possibility is more real than my past? And so I started a nonprofit. At that point in time, I was still working at a company. And so I got promoted to lead a team. And I just started proving myself. I'd say, well, how would a leader act? What would I do? And then I generated evidence, right? Because you need to create enough evidence inside of a new possibility that overwhelms and overpowers that past belief. Because if I keep behaving like a leader and I keep doing courageous things and leading people, then eventually that belief has no power anymore because I have too much evidence stacked in its favor. It's like if I wanted to be a writer and I've never written before, it's not going to be aligned with my identity. But if I write every day for 30 minutes, 6 months from now, I'll probably think of myself as a writer. Or if I want to be fit, I want to work out, I want to lose weight. When you're overweight, you're having a hard time getting into shape and everyone else is on a pedestal. It can be really demoralizing. But if I said, I'm extremely fit, I'm an athlete, and you keep repeating that to yourself, and you actually do something every day towards it, eventually your identity shifts at some point, because you're effectively just creating a new possibility. And you don't even have to go in and excavate your entire past like an archaeologist and find every little thing that you, every little bug in your code of how you were programmed. But I think what's more important is deciding who you want to be and creating yourself as a new possibility, and then backing up that possibility with as much evidence, action, speech, everything you can, and fully align yourself to that possibility. Before you know it, your external world will reflect that possibility.
Wow, that's so good. Act as if, right?
Act as if. Act from the end. People think of the end. They imagine what it would be like, an imagination of what if I were that person, but they're not acting from the end.
Yeah.
Like if it already had occurred, how would you be acting? Because growth isn't knowledge, growth is behavior change. So if you can just change your behaviors to resemble that of your future self that has the results that you want, then time has to collapse and you have to be that person.
Looking to reset your body and take control of your health? Discover how GLP-1 medications can help balance your hormones, control insulin, reduce hunger, and help you feel fuller longer. All with expert medical guidance every step of the way. Just fill out a quick questionnaire at yesyoucanmedical.com and get your medication delivered straight to your door. No contracts, no subscriptions, just real support. Your healthy transformation starts today at yesyoucanmedical.com. That is so good. And I also love what you said about, you can change your surroundings, you can move around, but if you don't really change from within, life's still the same. So it's so powerful because, you can move whatever you want, or you can buy things, right? You can buy the car, you can buy the things, but if you don't really work here and here, your life will still be the same.
It's a matrix. It's the problem with the whole world. Everyone's looking for an external solution. Like, I don't feel enough love in my life. I got to go get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or I don't have this. I need more money because I don't feel secure. It's like, no, feel secure and stable and abundant and the money will come. Learn how to love yourself and feel and be the vibration of love, and you'll see love finds you everywhere, right? And so we're searching externally for things that can only be cultivated internally, and you'll be looking your entire life.
Why was building a tribe so important to you? A community. Why was building, this podcast was so important to you?
Look, I think, we're both business guys. I think if you want to look at a successful business, the KPI is profit. And if you want a successful life, the KPI is love. How much love do you have on a daily basis? If you look at the blue zones where people live to 100 plus years old, what's the number one common denominator? It's community. They live with their families. They see them every day, right? We're fragmented in America, pursuing our self-interests. And I love capitalism. And one of the byproducts of that is we can get very isolated, especially with social media, which can have counter effects at times. And so as I've gotten older, I used to network my face off and, know thousands of people, go to every event and all that. And as I've gotten older, I would say my core circle has gotten smaller, but the density of amazing people that are truly aligned with my values has increased. And so life is too hard to go at it alone, man. I did it for a long time. It's too hard. It's too lonely. And then even if you are successful, it's sad because happiness without someone to share it with is very short lasting. Even when you're winning, when I was building my company alone and I would win a deal, I'd be like, all right, that was cool. Like, I'm glad I got some dopamine spike, but you can't get serotonin. Serotonin is shared between people. Oxytocin, the bonding chemical. Like, I want the oxytocin. I want the connection of like winning with people, doing life with people. So for me, nothing compares to having a core group of friends, family around you that genuinely love you. And this is what I realized too, is when I was first pursuing success, I just wanted to be around a lot of successful people, and I was proud to be associated with them. Because again, your voids create your values. My void when I was younger, I didn't feel like I was one of the cool kids. I felt isolated, didn't have relationships. If you fast forward into my career, I'm a super connector. You know, I run a talent agency for AI companies. So it's my job to know all the biggest CEOs in the world. And so that was a overcompensation to build a network and a tribe that was so big that I could insulate myself from ever feeling lonely again. And I would always have access to the coolest people, the coolest things. So I would always feel enough and people would want to be my friend because it's like I'm doing cool shit, right? And that was actually fulfilling for a while. And then what I realized now is like most of those people, as awesome as those friendships and stories are, when shit hits the fan, they won't be there. And after you go through enough pain in life, you start to get, there's a filter and you start seeing what matters. And so for me, finding people with good souls that I actually want to build relationships with for the rest of my life that I know I can count on, that is a premium. Because life isn't always amazing. And it's really easy to find summertime friends, right? Wow. That are there for the season. But I just place a huge premium on people that actually help me become the type of person I want to be and are actually there in my corner when I need them. And so I just think if you want to achieve your potential, not even from a business perspective, but from a quality of life perspective, from a true sense of joy and happiness, it is completely one-to-one correlated to the quality of your relationships.
Wow. You are super welcoming. You're a super loving human being. Have you always been that way, or was it a habit that you had to create? Was it a skill that you basically executed on?
I don't think so. I mean, when I was a kid, like I would go give homeless guys food. I would go break off communion at restaurants when I was 5 years old for everyone in the restaurant before I'd eat. I just think I always loved people. Like I always wanted a lot of attention at my mom's work gatherings. Like I was very extroverted. I loved people. I think the hard part for me was I didn't feel like I received that back, which is then what caused me to kind of go into this character of like, let's go build massive success and become a somebody so that I could more easily access love. But I always loved people. I think that's super innate. I don't think you could teach it. I think the pain was a gift because loving people is great, but pain is the greatest motivator in the world, right? You're 6 times more likely to take an action to move away from pain than towards pleasure, right? So if that pain of like feeling so lonely and so broken, especially when I was younger, that I think fueled the humanitarian in me in big and small ways where like I just never wanted people to feel that way. So I wanted to do what I could do to help them feel better about themselves. And that's part of what drives me wanting to be even more successful is that I can pull those people up and I can transfer that belief into them that I didn't have. And so I think, I think that's the main part.
Is community something you find or something you create?
You create.
Okay. Oh, it's intentional.
I think you create it whether you know it or not, because you're always creating yourself and your vibe attracts your tribe. Like you're always going to be attracting people that are in resonance with your frequency. And so there's always this lonely period too, when you're around friends you know don't align with your future, but you don't want to be lonely and have no friends. But the type of friends that you want in your life, you're not really qualified to be their friend yet, because you're still living in antithetical ways to how who that person would make a friend. And so you go through this journey, this lonely journey where you have to learn how to like be alone and work on yourself to then be somebody that the type of people you want to be around would want to be around. Right. And so I had to stop partying a ton. I had to focus on personal development. I had to find a purpose, because I like to associate with people that are on missions, that are working on bettering themselves, that are doing these things. And so if I was living this hedonistic life and not working on myself, and I was an unconscious person, how could I expect to attract incredible friends that were aligned with the future that I wanted? And so I think working on yourself and being the best version of yourself and creating yourself naturally helps attract your tribe. But at the same time, you're not going to attract a tribe sitting in your house. Right. So you have to be pragmatic and say, okay, well, let me go do things like go to business seminars or go to personal growth events or host things.
That's
like
scary for someone
you know what I mean?
Introverted.
Yeah, but the secret for the introverts is to do things that you love. Right.
Okay.
And when you host, everyone comes to you. So you never have to be the one that ice breaks. Like 2 of the most connected human beings in this world that I know are extremely introverted. But they even told me they created these giant companies, events businesses, because they didn't want to go approach people and they wanted people to come to them. And so they feel at home doing that thing. So that's one big thing. But also, like, if you're doing something you love to talk about, introverts become very extroverted when it's in their field of passion. So if you're doing something on health and you're connecting with people on health, it's very easy, right? Or if I'm doing a salsa party at my house, salsa dancing, like, I feel in my element there, right? So you can bring people together around things that you're passionate about, so it doesn't feel forced, like networking, and you're just bonding with people over shared interests, and you kind of take all the pressure off of it.
It's also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it also for you something like you don't see it as a selfish thing? You see it as adding value as well, right? Because also, like, when you walk into a room, what goes in, through your head when you walk into a room and you don't know many people?
That's a great question,
What's your thought process? Like, because I could be like, everybody's looking at me, I'm gonna look stupid. I don't want to say hi because I don't want to interrupt. Like, there are so many things that have gone through my head.
Yeah, it's different.
My own story. Right?
Earlier on, when I was like very much less confident in who I was, I would go to events trying to get something. I would like, all right, who are the important people in this room? How can I pre-research them to figure out where to allocate my time efficiently so I can land business, or so I can get what I needed and make it productive? And you can just like smell the commission breath, right? Or you can smell the inauthenticity, depending on what context we're talking about. I wanted to go impress people, so I was probably overcompensating there and trying to sound more impressive. And like, when I was younger, I was definitely annoying to be around at those events. But at this point now, I'm just a lot more secure in myself. So like, my frame of reference is always to connect and to get to know people. And if I have a real connection with someone, I'll go deeper. But if I'm at a networking thing, I might talk to one person for an hour and a half of that 3 hours if I really connect with someone, versus thinking, I got to meet everybody, get their names. Like, most people you never follow up with. So it's about knowing who you are, communicating yourself and your values articulately so that the right people can find you, and then going deeper with those people. But I just try to enjoy life and just take the pressure off having to produce outcomes. Just go out there, have fun, connect, and let the universe kind of take me where it goes.
Yes You Can is the #1 nutrition system for Latinos in the United States. It features supplements made with natural, clinically proven ingredients and designed in a 3-phase plan to detoxify, transform, and maintain your best version. Visit yesyoucan.com today and get started.
What do you think most people get wrong about networking?
Two things. One is they're putting people on a pedestal. They're looking at the world through a lens of hierarchy. Is this person higher than me? Am I higher than this person? Is this person going to be helpful to me? Is there any value I can add to this person? It's all hierarchical. And so when you do that, you're not on the same frequency. You're putting them above you, and that creates dissonance, which kind of has like fanboy or fangirl energy. And it's impossible to build an authentic relationship when you're putting someone on a pedestal. So if you see a networking event and there's someone you really wanted to talk to, and you go up, oh my God, I'm a huge fan of your work. You're putting them on this pedestal, and it's an awkward energy to build a real relationship on. And what you don't want to go there and just schmooze somebody. You want to build an authentic connection. So walking up with more confidence, saying, hey, I saw your article. Love what you said about this. It's different. Or you just come up and just crack a joke, especially if they're a huge name that everyone's gonna have to go up and like make fun of their shoes or something, right? Just be yourself, be authentic. So I think not putting people on a pedestal and not conflating your net worth or your financial value with your human value. Someone's like, oh, this guy's a billionaire, so therefore they're better. It's like, no. Everyone just wants to be around good energy and people that make them feel good. And so your net worth, your bank account, your accomplishments, your resume mean shit. It's all about how you make people feel. So take the pressure off yourself to have to be somebody to feel worthy of having that conversation, and show up as a human, because if you do, that might just make that person stay, and it could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I would say that. And number two, when you're networking, if you want to actually build long-term relationships, I think you have to have a vehicle, right? Because if, let's just say we're meeting at an event and we're not as close friends as we are now, but I have nothing to add to your life, it's going to be hard to actually build a long-term relationship. I'm in the talent business. So every CEO I meet, if we have a good connection, we can work together and I can help them build their companies. And so that can deepen the relationships. Or if I was a content creator, I could create content for them. Or maybe we just hit it off and we like really align on certain topics. But I think having a vehicle is very helpful from a networking perspective because you can actually collaborate, and really successful people are pretty busy. And so they're looking for people that have synergies with their lives where they can, they can hang out, they can have great times, but they can also build and collaborate together. So initially, I think it is important to work on your skill sets, right? And actually have something of substance that you can then continue those conversations if you want to network with higher level people.
I love that. How do you handle relationships when you feel you're outgrowing someone? Sometimes like you grow up with friends and you guys go different directions, and at some point you're outgrowing people. Or when I say outgrowing, it's not better or worse, it's more like you're going different directions, right? But you feel that pressure of like, but that's my best friend from years ago, but I'm just not really aligning with those values.
Yeah, dude, I wish I could say I was better at this, but I think whether it be firing people too slowly or firing friends too slowly, I've made both of those mistakes.
Too slowly.
Too slowly. Have you ever fired someone and said, man, I wish I waited longer to do that?
Never.
And so I think we allow parasites to drain our lives. And it's not even because we don't want to hurt their feelings. It's actually because having that conversation would be uncomfortable for us and we're avoiding our own feelings, right? You don't want to have that conversation because it's awkward and difficult for you. And so we masquerade it as compassion, but it's actually cowardice. And so I have developed a much lower tolerance at this point in my life. So if people don't align with my values, I'll either directly communicate that, like, hey man, like this is not the type of relationship I'm in for. Like I don't align with this. Or if it's people that are super close to you, you just love them from a distance. You just draw back the attention and time and say, hey, look, I'm really focused on building my company and doing these things and being a part of these things. And if that's not you, I still love you, but this is where I'm focusing my time. Right. And it's just, for me, you have to be merciless with your vision for your life, right? Because you have to be authentic to yourself. To stay in relationships in any capacity that aren't true to who you are is just harmful to yourself. And you have to care more about your vision and your purpose in this world than you do about making other people feel comfortable. And it's people that are both very obsessed with personal growth, and I feel like we're shedding skins and evolving every 6 to 12 months minimum or maximum. You need to surround yourself with similar people, right? That's why I think life gets better in your 30s, because you start to know yourself more and you start to be just unapologetically you. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do. My friends know I'm not going to the after parties. I'm not doing certain things. They can't sway me. It's just, there's certain boundaries and things I do in my life. And I surround myself with people that have those similar values. And for me, I don't sweat it anymore. Cause like, by keeping the wrong people in your life, you are betraying yourself. And I'm just unwilling to betray myself. So I'd rather have those conversations, love people from a distance, and protect my time.
What's your take on, we've heard, of the whole saying, you are the result of the 5 people you hung out with, right?
Yeah.
So then, I've done it. I've only hung out with like successful entrepreneurs on health and wellness businesses. But what happens with the rest of the world, the friend that this makes you happy, or the friends that maybe doesn't have a lot of money, but he's so cool and so humble and so nice to just gives you peace. How do you balance that out? Because, when you're becoming that business leader, sometimes you're in that go. And like you're looking for those relationships that are going to really kind of like take you to that next level, right? How do you balance out with all those friends that may not have or might not want to be billionaires and millionaires, but they just give you millions of dollars in fun and good moments and good times?
Look, when I was starting out and I was in that insecure place of trying to prove myself, I definitely pursued relationships with people because of their status or what they might be able to do for me, even if it, I think I pursued relationships for the wrong reasons. At this point in my life, I don't give a shit about someone's level of success in terms of them being in my circle. Now, they have to be working on themselves. They have to be trying to become better people, and they have to be people that I really enjoy being around. But my rule of thumb here is you want to surround yourself with people who pull you in the direction of who you want to be. So I have business friends that are much more successful than me that I hang out with, and they pull me in the direction of thinking bigger and being more courageous. I have other friends that are so happy and so free-spirited. They're just happier people than me. And so I want to hang out with them more because they teach me how to be happier, and how to care less about stupid shit. And then there's friends of mine that are in beautiful relationships that I admire. So I spend more time with them, and they pull me in the direction of being a better partner and pulling me into that energy. And so I have friends that are more fit than me. And I always want to have people that are more of something than me in my life, to pull me into the direction of who I want to be. And so there's multiple categories, right? So like, I just look for people that I think have beautiful traits that I aspire to, and hopefully I have some of those as well. And it's a mutually beneficial exchange where we're both inspiring and supporting each other. But I want a well-rounded group of friends, but the core of it isn't about the status or success or like what that friendship will mean to me or the world externally. It's, does this person make me feel better about myself at the end of the day? Do I feel more empowered, enthusiastic, optimistic, supported, loved by being in the presence of this person, or not? Because I've hung out with successful friends that I just felt belittled by, or I didn't feel bigger in their presence. I didn't feel, it didn't actually serve me. And so I think we conflate success and status and net worth and all these things into how we select friends too much. I think that the people that are the most successful will tell you that it's the least thing they value, because that becomes a commodity at some point. And having real, loyal, loving friends that genuinely make your life great are so rare to come by that that's the most important data point to skew on for me.
That's beautiful. Talking about relationships, I've seen your parents on social media a lot. What have they taught you about love and relationships?
It's a great question. I think they taught me that, well, they've been together for 40 something years now, right? So they taught me that it's possible. That's all I could ask for. They gave me a model of love that, although it had a lot of ups and downs, that it's possible if you commit to stick it out and stay in love. And so that model gives me hope. And look, I think that you can dissect relationships and learn what you want and don't want. But I think in terms of relationships, I think that they taught me that love and family is the most important thing. And they did a great job as parents. And I think they more or less, they provided a model of what it could look like that would get me excited about having the same thing and having my own iteration of that, because they did such a great job as parents. And like, I wouldn't necessarily want their type of relationship by any means, but I think they more or less showed me what's possible, and they gave me a good, healthy mental model to look through marriage and love through, that I think is going to be important for me in attracting and keeping the love of my life, because I have a positive expectation of what it can be.
Talking about love, what's your love language?
Physical touch and words of affirmation. Those are my two big ones, man. Look, I like things that I can't buy.
My husband says that I have all 5. He's like, fuck.
Dude, I'm a big, like, physical touch must, but words of affirmation are huge for me. Look, quality time is big as well, but like acts of service and gifts, You can buy a maid, you can buy a chef, you can buy a lot of things. And while I appreciate those things, they don't fill my cup up. It's got to be uniquely that person that can see me, articulate what they see in me, support me, and then spend quality time, more nurturing. I think the things that you can't buy are the most important to me. And I'm a very affectionate human being. So I think finding someone who, I love that quote where it's like, I hope you find somebody that speaks your language so you don't have to spend the rest of your life trying to translate your soul.
Wow.
And so for me, people that have a deep love for words and articulating love, I tend to connect with at a much deeper level.
That's powerful. So we talked last time about the famous list to manifest your partner. Do you mind sharing some of the list tips to the audience so they also know and learn how to execute on it?
Well, I'm still single, so we'll see if this is an effective tool. But look, I've done a lot of these. I think of people like laugh at these all the time because they're like, all right, you're just writing these crazy lists down. And a lot of it is so surface level. So I think understanding what to prioritize is the hard part.
Yeah.
Right? Like I wanted to be, and I think anything too physically oriented, although, hey, set a high bar and have your preferences. I'm not shaming that at all. Hold a high bar and go for it. But I think ultimately what we really want is how does this person make me feel? Like really get clear on that. How do you feel when you're with this person?
Yeah.
Like if you're a naturally anxious person who needs a lot of reassurance, maybe you don't want to date a celebrity news anchor or, an actor. Like you start to understand what's important. How do I want to feel in this relationship? I would say, what are my non-negotiables? What are the most important things? What are the attributes and the values that are absolutely critical for me to admire this person? And then what's the energy feel like? Personality type. Like I tend to go for outgoing girls. I like outgoing communicators because I talk to a lot of people and I like to have someone who's a conversational additive versus someone who kind of just sits there, right? So I look at the combination of values, energy, personality, and then physical appearance and just get an idea of what's important there. But I think a lot of that is really geared around, there's a couple questions I ask myself right away on a date to see if this is like a real potential. One of them is, would I be proud if my daughter ended up like her? Because then I can immediately filter through, is this someone, the type of person with the values that I want to raise my kid?
Wow.
Right? Do I admire this person and why? Like, otherwise I'm going to be engaged for a week, a month, 2 months, but unless you really admire someone. And then I think looking for someone who supports your life, who's a good, you don't want the exact version of you. You want a compliment, right? Like you've done that really well in your relationship. But do we have similar visions, right? I think the more clear you are as I can't speak as much from the female perspective, but I think the more clear you are, especially in a man, about what your vision is and what you want your life to be, like you are leading that relationship. And so it's easier to find people or the right person who's excited by that vision and sees that similarly. So there's a lot that goes into it, man, but I think we could probably simplify it more than we all do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And also make a list and then become the list, right? Because sometimes we're expecting something we're not.
Or become the equivalent of your gender of the list. For instance, like I want a super sweet, nurturing, submissive woman, right? So what do I have to be? I don't need to be a submissive man. I need to be a confidently divine masculine man who's leading from his heart with purpose to attract that same caliber of woman. So we have different complementary skill sets and traits, but I'm embodying the equal version of that in the masculine frame.
100%. Do you think we should write what we want or who we need?
Ooh, that's a great question. What we want or who we need.
Right? Because sometimes I had to change who I wanted for who I needed, honestly.
Do you have an example of that? Like something you wanted, but
I was super superficial. The first time I took my list to Tony Robbins, he literally like threw it away. He's like, this is bullshit. Here, like a Ferrari, a six-pack. He's like, this is going to be done, gone in a year. Like you need substance. You need someone that's really aligned with your values. And I was like, what? But then, Literally, I was like, wow, that's deep. So I went through a 3-year journey, honestly, in order to first find out what I needed. Like, because I thought, that I wanted certain things, but I really needed other things in order to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I thought I needed a Colombian, but then I opened up the aperture to all Latinas. So I've expanded
Internationally.
Yeah. I've expanded. Look, I think we have ideas of what we think we want, but I'm surrendered to the universe, man. Like, I know the important things. And it's important to know why you want those things. Like, look, if you want someone that underneath what you just told me, you want someone who's fit and takes care of themselves. Right. So there's actually a healthy version of that list underneath what you were saying. Like, oh, they need to have like veins in their lower 2 abs. It's like, all right, now we're getting real specific. Right. But like, I want a healthy and fit person because I value health. And I also want someone that I'm insanely attracted to, because that's the one person I'm committing to forever. So that's normal. Otherwise, we're just roommates. And so I think it's fair to have high standards and to set those lists. But then again, you can't be delusional. If you're not going to the gym, if you're not embodying the equivalent of those traits in your own domain, like, yeah, why would you expect to have that in your life? But I'm still figuring this one out.
Do you update your list as you grow?
Yeah, I definitely do. I reflect on my vision in my life, what I'm looking for all the time, because I'm always learning new insights. So it's like, why would I not want to update the Apple, right? Why would I want to have an outdated operating system on my iPhone? I got to keep updating it with the data and lessons that I'm learning about myself. So yeah, that's why I think now more than anything, it's just about someone I feel at home with. It's that feeling of, oh, this feels like home. I could just sit here for 20 hours a day doing nothing with this person and feel totally fulfilled. And when that's there, a lot of the other shit that you thought mattered kind of evaporates.
I love that.
You
were talking about the masculinity. What's something you had to unlearn about love or masculinity?
That I couldn't be sensitive. Because I was a very sensitive kid, right? But that got me bullied and picked on. I was writing poetry to girls when I was like 12 years old, and the guys would steal it and make fun of me and read it at school, right? So like I felt very insecure about how sensitive and creative I was, and I didn't feel like the jock. I didn't feel masculine enough. I didn't feel man enough. But then I became a lot more hardened, and I put on this, character where I always had to look good. I always had to have everything put together. So I lost access to my own authenticity and vulnerability, but I learned that the sensitivity and leading with my heart later is the superpower. Wow. Being radically in truth and speaking your heart and not being afraid of crying or being afraid of showing emotion, I think is very masculine. I think it's actually courageous to actually be open about your emotions. And so I used to not be able to say anything that would make me look bad. Like, I would avoid it and I would lie. I even told one of my best friends that this girl I dated 10 years ago, that I broke up with her. And she broke up with me. I couldn't even be honest with my friends about getting broken up with, because I had to always look good, right? I didn't want to appear weak and vulnerable. I really equated vulnerability with weakness, and I learned to hate that weakness within myself because it was so difficult when I was younger. So I think I had to unlearn the idea that vulnerability and sensitivity make you less masculine. And then in embracing all my flaws and how fucked up I am and embracing my emotions, I took my power back from them. And I've been able to create much deeper, grounded relationships. Because if a girl if we had to have an uncomfortable conversation, I would just crack a joke, because I couldn't sit in discomfort. I couldn't sit in sadness. I couldn't sit in anxiousness. So I got really good at cracking like comedic one-liners and things to always shift the room to avoid having to go and sit in those uncomfortable emotions. But you can't build a deep relationship when you're avoiding those emotions. And so I learned to stop avoiding those emotions, to really lean into them, to express them, to be open about them. And as a result, a lot of beautiful connection and peace came from that.
That's beautiful. And you're now super in touch with your creative side.
Yeah.
You play guitar, you dance, salsa, merengue. How did you get there? For everybody that's listening, how did you balance that out?
I think I was just pursuing business success for so long. And I was like, how many more milestones can I hit? How much more money can I acquire? Status can I acquire before I actually love my life? Right? And I'm like, we're multidimensional beings. There's a lot of different parts of you. And often we just express one or two of those. We express the parts that are most loved by the world instead of the parts of us that are most true. And so when I looked at myself, I'm like, I'm not just a business guy. I also love salsa dancing. I love playing guitar. I love going on epic trips with my friends. I love writing poetry. I love reading, writing. I have so many eclectic tastes and things that are me, but I'm like, oh, does this fit inside of the narrative I want society to see me as? And the more I lived in that, the more disconnected I was from myself. So at a certain point, I'm like, when am I just going to stop delaying being me? When am I going to just give myself permission to just fully be me instead of having to appease this image that no one else placed on me, but I think I needed to have to get the love I wanted. And so the more I love myself, the more I'm like, you know what? I like my life. I like who I am. The more comfortable I became just doing whatever and not thinking, how is this going to be perceived? I'm like, I freaking like doing this, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to post about this. I don't care. Like, it's just it's a progressive thing where I'm like, I'm just radically me, and whatever I like, I'm just going to put it out there. Instead of trying to orchestrate and manipulate and manufacture who I thought I needed to be. Because at a certain point, I just got tired of having everything externally, but having the missing internally. And I'm like, okay, it's time to just be you. And I think everyone gets there at some point, hopefully. It's just how much pain do you have to endure before you finally say, fuck it, I'm doing it. But now I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to live my best life. And I ask myself, anytime I do something, I'm like, why am I doing this? How does it feel? And if it doesn't feel exciting, I know I'm doing it for my ego. And so I'm like, that's not me. And so I just tend to do things and follow my intuition of whatever lights me up, I'm doing it.
You've always been in shape. You are in an amazing shape right now. I remember you telling me that you were very skinny when you were growing up.
Yeah, I think I had good genetics. I was always skinny. It was hard for me to put on muscle. I couldn't get fat if I wanted, man. I ate like shit. Like I would eat like 12 Hostess cupcakes a day, 6 sodas. Like I ate terribly as a kid. That's the one. I'm going to do that differently with my kids. They're eating some healthy shit. But no, I had good genetics, honestly. Like putting on muscle, like the required, 19 years of disciplined workouts now. So I put a lot of effort in. But the fitness journey is tough, man. But I believe the journey of life is all about self-mastery. And your fitness journey is the foundation of that. And especially what you ingest, right? Controlling what you ingest is very important. And so, yeah, luckily for me, I had good genetics, but I do put a lot of work in. For me, it's the cornerstone of life. Like health is the most important thing. If I said, Alejandro, I'll give you $1 billion right now, but you're going to have a sore throat for the rest of your life. You're like, it's just a sore throat. Or every other week, you're going to have a cold. But I'm going to give you $1 billion in all your dreams. You're like, no, health is the most important thing. So for me, it's just establishing there's a lot of shit going on in life. What's actually important in life? Define those pillars for yourself. And then say, what are the best things I can do in these pillars? And like in my business calendar, you see my calendar, I have my workouts, my salsa lessons, my paddle sessions, all my physical activities, they're anchored in. And no one can set a meeting over those times because it comes first. And so whatever you prioritize, make sure it's reflected in your calendar. So some people, health is an afterthought. Like, I'm going to build this giant business and then get healthy. It's like, well, you probably won't have enough time to enjoy it because you're killing yourself. And so for me, it wasn't always the case, man. I used to party like a wild man, but
really,
I had a lot of health issues. Like I was always sick. I've had some near-death experiences, some wild diseases from just shutting my immune system down from like not sleeping and partying too much. And so I went on the complete opposite spectrum. I still looked good, but inside I was not healthy. And so eventually, I don't know when it was, maybe 28, 29, I got way more dialed. I cut back on the drinking. I maybe drink a few times a year now. I eat healthy. Like for me, health has become the most important, mental, spiritual, and physical.
Out of those habits, what's one habit or belief that has changed the trajectory of your life besides that one, like focusing on health? It
depends on who it, like for me, it's hard to say because it's like a stack of habits that all compound off each
Yeah.
other. Like
Yeah.
if you don't go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, like that will be the most singly powerful habit you can do. Just go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. That'll change. For me, it was probably meditation.
Oh, wow.
You know, because I'm like all over the place, 1,000 miles an hour kind of guy, and like sitting down and meditating 30 to 60 minutes a day, consciously creating who I want to be, witnessing my thoughts so I can start to analyze what's going on in my life, and I can start to see the thoughts that are contributing to the results I have in my emotions. Just gaining more self-awareness and connection to self through meditation has been remarkable for all three: physical, spiritual, and emotional. But meditating, the act of overcoming myself every day. That's what meditation is. People are like, oh, I don't know how to, I have thoughts that come up. I can't sit down. It's like, that's what we all have. And I've been doing it for 6-7 years, but it's the process of overcoming yourself every day and battling with your own self and saying, no, sit, we have some work to do here. That process of connecting with myself, getting clarity of how I want to act, how I want to feel, what do I want to do, what does my future look like, that alone sacred time in isolated reflection has done wonders for me.
This is still like, it's hard for you still to meditate? To sit down and
Absolutely.
meditate? Okay.
Because every day, what
That's
happens?
good to hear.
I wake up, I just want to get coffee. I want to check my email. I want to get to work. I just want to go.
Yeah.
But I got to sit myself down and say, no, hold up. We got to connect. We got to feel into how we want this day to go. We got to envision what this day looks like. We got to take that time to do that. And so, look, the external world is just a reflection of your internal world. So if you don't take the time to consciously curate and prune your internal, then you're going to have a bunch of randomness externally. And so the more controlled I am, the more focused and disciplined I am with cultivating that inner world, the more beautiful my external world looks. And so by allocating 30 to 60 minutes, which seems like it's taking time away from my other activities, actually makes everything else 10 times better.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, you host this amazing podcast, world-class podcast. What's one lesson from your guests that you've learned, or something that has stuck with you and you've like, wow, this is something that they all have in common?
That's a great question. I would say that every mega successful person I've interviewed, especially the billionaires, it's just the same traits, just magnified. From interviewing a lot of successful people, the common pattern is alchemization. They're very good at alchemizing pain into purpose. They're like everyone I know had something very difficult happen. They typically felt very unseen, unimportant, unspecial, unloved, and then maniacally worked on something for a decade or two with absolute focus, but were able to channel that towards something productive. Now, I will say not everyone's happy. Like there's a very clear lack of correlation between massive success and happiness. I don't think a lot of the people, at least I can feel that energetically at times, is like not the happiest. And so I think the most successful people, and again, this is how you define success. They're typically driven by something dark. They learn how to channel that for something good, and they stay disciplined in one area where they can build an unfair advantage, where they work like dogs for 10 to 20 years. And then if you stay in the arena long enough, you also get a little bit of luck handed your way. And so I don't think there's anything like mystical about really successful people. I think that they're just really focused. They have a lot of emotional fuel, regardless of where that comes from. And they're very disciplined and focused and stick with one thing for a long period of time and become the best at it. I think that's the true secret of the greats, is absolute focus. They're not trying to build 20 companies at once. They're not trying to be the best this, and that. Like they're monomaniacally focused, so much so at the expense of everything else in their life. And so I could go that path, but I consciously said, if I'm a billionaire, awesome, but I don't give a shit. I'm not optimizing on that as part of my life path of like something I need to do. Cause I'm like, I know who I'd have to be to do that. And I'm unwilling to sacrifice the other things in my life for that.
Oh, wow.
I think that comes with healing, actually. So I tell some of the founders I work with, and I'm like, yeah, maybe you should wait another year or two for the IPO to start healing, because it's going to change you. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be driven by the same shit anymore, right? Jim McKelvey who's the co-founder of Square. I loved his story. He lost his mom when he was a teenager and she committed suicide. And he didn't, in his words, do anything about it. Like he knew she was struggling, but he's like, I'll just let the health professionals take care of it. And then she took her life. And that haunted him. And now, he's worth billions of dollars and he's building a ton of different companies. I was like, what's motivating you now? And he's like, look, I'm never going to be in a situation where if there's a problem I know I can solve that's meaningful, that I will always have to solve it now. I will not sit on the sidelines when I see something, because like he feels that guilt from his mom he could have done something about a problem, but he didn't.
Wow.
And now when he sees problems in the world that are harming the world, he's like, if I can do this, I am going to solve it. And so that pain ended up becoming something really beautiful that's helped him create a lot of really great businesses that help a lot of people. And so I just think it's about channeling the events of your life and always maintaining a positive spin on things to leverage the energy of your experiences to build something greater.
Wow. Do you read a lot?
I read a lot, off and on, but I've probably read 400 to 500 personal growth books, personal spiritual business books. But now my philosophy is a bit different. I'd rather read less books and integrate them more. I think it's better. There's a quote I love, and it's not about how many books you go through. It's about how many books go through you.
Oh, I like that.
So how many books do you embody, and what % of that book do you really embody in your behavior? Because again, learning is not knowledge. Learning is behavior change. If you've actually learned something, there should be a physical result you've achieved in the outer world that validates that you actually have learned. Until then, it's just a mental epiphany. But breakthroughs only happen through action. And so I'd rather work with one book, and there's certain books that I read 10, 12 times a year now that I constantly read that are more focused on the area that I'm most interested in developing at that time. And I want to master it. And so I want massive repetitions, right? And so that's kind of how I see learning now. Is most people are in the illusion they're learning. They're sucking in a lot of information like vacuum cleaners, but there's no output. And that was me for a long time. And you're not actually
probably me right now.
Yeah, you're not actually evolving. So my thing is, anytime I read a book is like, okay, what are the core things that I've learned from this? What are the new actions and new behaviors that I'm going to take as a result of having learned this information? And then how do I validate that I actually learned?
Wow, that's so good. I'm going to use you as my accountability partner, Pukawa, because I had this goal, like 3 books a month. And now you're talking about, I'm like, have I been implementing them?
Well, the question is, go back to first principles. Why? Why 3 books a month? That's just some totally subjective idea of like, if I do this, that means I'm learning. Like, what's the underlying belief about yourself if you happen to read 3 books a month? I used to do 50 books a year because I saw some shit on Instagram where it's like the average CEO reads 50 books a year, which was probably some bullshit line that some marketing analyst wrote, right? I'm like, okay, leaders are readers. I do give them that. Like, that is important. But underneath that, it's like, no, I'm really interested in becoming a great leader. So let me read the 2 to 3 best leadership books, or is a book even the best thing? Should I get a coach? Like, right? If I want to be great at fitness, right? I want to get in the best shape of my life. So let me read 20 fitness books this year. You're better off just doing 1 fitness book that has the blueprint and relentlessly executing on it, and then hiring a coach or 2 coaches. And so at the end of the day, this is why people stay in college too long. They get masters and PhDs. They're always in this endless process of seeking more information, but they're not doing shit with it. And so at the end of the day, what outcomes do you want to produce? And then what information do you need to learn to produce those outcomes? That's all I see it as. It's like, I want to be more spiritual. All right, well, let me read. But let me tell you this. If you read every Joe Dispenza book out there, you read every meditation book, you're never going to learn about meditation. You can read every business book, but if you don't build a business, you're never going to learn about business, right? Like, you can only learn in the arena. And most people are scared, so they hide behind information and give themselves, it's like mental masturbation. Nothing's happening though. And so for me, I'm just like, let me get information. Let me have the smallest amount of time between that information in my brain and an actual action, and then iterate on that. But you want to figure out what you want and say, what's the best way I can learn to get this outcome? Because it might not even be a book, right? If you want to learn how to meditate, go to a meditation retreat. Like, go do the thing. The book, the information is to help give you more accurate mental models or give you new things to try, right? If you're starting a new business, you might want some ideas about what marketing tactics to try, but you have to go test those to see if they worked. If not, go back to the board. So information is beautiful, but it's all about application. It's all about integration, and you're better off going deeper in seminal texts that are the blueprints of what you want to do than try to read everything under the moon just to, hey, I read 50 books. It's like, all right, well, instead of validating yourself based on how much you're consuming, only validate yourself based on the outcomes you're producing. It's like, what did okay, I read 3 books. What did I produce from this? Nothing. Oh, I actually achieved nothing. And so it goes back to how you validate. And school teaches us to validate ourselves based on checking boxes. Right? I got a 3.9 in this course, a 3.8 here, completed this, summa cum laude. You're just checking boxes, covering all your subjects, but it's useless. It's useless. Focused, applied knowledge, what Tony Robbins calls just-in-time learning, only learning what's relevant for you to apply right now, right? Like if marketing is your bottleneck in your business and you're reading about leadership, but you don't plan to hire someone for 12 months, you're wasting your time. Focus on what's important right now, right? If you're trying to do something big with your life, but your health isn't on point, make health your priority and go seek out people that you think you can learn from in that space and get that dialed before the next thing. And so it's prioritizing what's worth learning, figuring out the best methods to learn that, and then always opting in for massive amount of action and not letting yourself get seduced by the illusion of information and knowledge, and actually only measure yourself based on what you're able to produce with it.
Yeah, I love that. I think Tony Robbins also says, like, information is not power, execution is.
Yes.
If we don't execute, then we're not.
We live in an age of information. We have ChatGPT now.
Exactly.
Right?
Do you use it for
all the time
self-therapy?
All the time. I think ChatGPT gives better advice than most people. It's absolutely.
If you're truthful, though. You have to give them, the right prompt.
Dude, that's why I think in the age of technology, especially in the age of AI, agency is the most important thing, because anyone can build anything. You can use Replit or Lovable and you can build an application in 24 hours and go sell it. You can do anything now. AI is commoditized building things because you don't need teams of 20 people to do things. There's more information accessible at our fingertips than ever before, but that information curve is accelerating faster than people actually doing things with it, right? So people don't have the agency to take that information and do something. And so that gap is going to be exposed even harder now, dramatically.
Wow.
And so you want to become the type of person, and again, you don't have to have been this person. Up until this point in your life, you could have been sitting on the couch eating Doritos every day, like David Goggins, who was 350, 400 pounds doing pest control, that one day he decided to wake up and just be a badass dude. And he's like, I'm going to go run. I'm going to go push my body every day to my max. So you have to become somebody right now as a choice that is high agency, where you take control of where you want to direct your life. You're not some bag in the wind where life's just dragging you where it wants. And you say, this is what I want out of life. Okay, what do I need to learn to become this person to have this? And then go do it. It's that simple. But the modern world is for the doers. It's for the doers. You need agency. You have to take control of your life. You can use technology to dramatically accelerate you, but you have to take massive action. The people that are taking action and creating their own paths are going to be 10x'd by this technology. And the people that are waiting for the answers, waiting for a promotion, waiting for a company to come find them, they are going to get more and more displaced.
100%. Thank you so much for your time. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
I've learned so much today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, my man.
I appreciate it. You don't have to be chosen to choose yourself. Chris showed us that being the underdog isn't a weakness. It's actually a gift. It teaches me to lead with heart, to fight with purpose, and to build something real. If this episode moved you, hit subscribe. Share it with someone who needs it. And check out yesyoucan.com and yesyoucanmedical.com for tools that help you transform from the inside out. Until next time, stay brave, stay kind, and keep betting on you. I'm Alejandro Chabán, and this is the Chabán podcast.